All right, so let's check the blood pressure. Would you like blood pressure like this? I can show you how to do it. By the end of this video, you're gonna know everything you could possibly do to lower your blood pressure. And I know this is a long video, but what I want you to do is take notes because I'm gonna give you great value. And my goal is to make sure that you get some hope that you can lower your blood pressure because it is possible. And the reason this is so important is because you want to become healthy so you can reduce your risk of a heart attack or stroke. High blood pressure or hypertension is one of the leading risk factors for having a stroke or a heart attack or any cardiovascular disease for that matter. I'm going to cover over 20 things that can be done. Now, this does not mean you have to do them all, but if you take notes on each one, you can start to isolate which one you think you want to start with and just go from there. And as a bonus, at the end of the video, I'm gonna share with you exactly what I do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that my blood pressure stays normal. So let's just get started with number one. The relationship between ibuprofen and blood pressure is a very interesting one. According to WebMD, ibuprofen increases your blood pressure. So in theory, if you're gonna take a drug, aspirin or acetaminophen would be better as far as blood pressure is concerned. There's also risks with those medications as well, but we're simply trying to figure out if you have high blood pressure and you're going to take something that's going to be bad for you, which is the least of the bad ones. But why does ibuprofen cause higher blood pressure? The reason why is because ibuprofen causes the kidneys to retain fluid. This is very, very important because for many people, the first line of defense or the first thing that they're ever told to do in regard to high blood pressure is to take a diuretic, which makes the kidneys excrete salt or sodium as well as excreting more water. And when it does that, the volume of blood inside the arteries goes down and the blood pressure goes down. Well, if you take ibuprofen and it causes the kidneys to try to retain fluid, you're doing the exact opposite of the blood pressure medication that you're taking. There's a second reason why ibuprofen causes the blood pressure to go higher, and that is it reduces the function of the kidneys. The kidneys play a major role in controlling blood pressure because of that fluid retention, but other functions as well, which I won't go into right now, but just know that if you're taking a lot of ibuprofen, it may be causing your blood pressure to go higher. So what a bummer. I mean, that kind of sucks. So what's the solution? What do you do if you're in pain? Well, there's a number of things you can do depending on the reason you're taking the ibuprofen. Most people are taking ibuprofen just simply because they have an ache somewhere, usually an elbow, a shoulder, a knee, a spine, a foot. You could have pain for a number of reasons, and you ultimately want to treat the cause of the pain rather than simply just masking the symptoms. So ultimately, getting to the cause of the problem is important. So for example, if you have a muscle injury, very often massage helps heal the muscle. Heat will often help heal the muscle. Only in the acute phases should anyone ever really use ice. So I find in my practice that most people benefit more from a heat application. It helps them feel better, it reduces pain, and it helps things heal faster because you're getting more blood and oxygen and nutrients to the area that's injured, and that usually helps resolve most muscle pain. Tendon pain, if you have a tendonitis, a tendinopathy, eccentric exercises are important in healing that condition. I have lots of stuff on my YouTube channel regarding this, so you can just consult that later on. If you have a joint problem, very often joint mobilization or adjustments can help. If you have arthritis, very low pressure but movement oriented exercises are beneficial for people with arthritis. But if you have a small fever, maybe 99, 100, 101, very often you're sick and you don't feel good. Well, the thing is, you're supposed to not feel good when you're sick. So rather than raising your blood pressure with a drug like ibuprofen, maybe just let your body do what it's trying to do naturally by heating your body up, which kills viruses and bacteria, and that will allow you to heal much better. So there's lots of solutions, natural solutions, to get your body to feel better and actually heal without just masking the symptoms. So if someone has a tendency towards high blood pressure, or they're taking medications for high blood pressure, taking ibuprofen, just so you know, raises your blood pressure. You may have seen this online. Does mouthwash cause hypertension or high blood pressure? The answer is there's no real definitive study that says you can take someone who has normal blood pressure, they use mouthwash, and it causes high blood pressure. But for people that actually have high blood pressure, you may want to rethink the whole mouthwash situation. As far as these studies on mouthwash and blood pressure are concerned, there was a study that showed people that already have hypertension, when they use mouthwash twice a day, they have higher numbers than people that do not use mouthwash. And there's an interesting phenomenon that occurs with mouthwash. By the way, I'm getting this information from the National Institutes of Health. What's fascinating is that mouthwash destroys some of the bacteria in our mouth, which is in theory good because that helps us with bad breath. But what's interesting is some of these bacteria play a role in creating something called nitric oxide. And you'll see this is a constant theme when it comes to blood pressure. Nitric oxide is a gas that is made by our body. And this gas causes our blood vessels to open up, relax, and expand and become more pliable. And that is one of the components of high blood pressure, is the stiffness of our arteries. The stiffer the arteries, the higher the blood pressure. So anything that we can do that can cause more nitric oxide to be developed by our body naturally is going to lower our blood pressure. Well, if mouthwash decreases the amount of nitric oxide production, in theory, people with hypertension should not be using mouthwash. But let's face it, your breath stinks, so what are you going to do? Try lemon and parsley. First of all, it tastes good. Second of all, it helps your breath, which is mucho appreciated. And lastly, it helps with the flora of the mouth and will not destroy your body's ability to produce nitric oxide. So it's a win-win-win. You've got good breath, everyone around you isn't offended by your breath, and you haven't destroyed your body's ability to produce nitric oxide, and your blood pressure is much better. One of the most overlooked components of high blood pressure is the emotional side. Currently, most people, when they think of the emotional side, they think of stress, anxiety, depression, and many people are prescribed medications for this. But nobody ever talks about how do you solve the emotional component that might be, for many people, an underlying reason why they have high blood pressure. Now, I have personally found a book that's helpful for me. I'm going to share it with you. I'm not saying you have to read this book, but for many people, it's a different book. Now, there was a famous book written by a guy, and this is not the book, but I'm going to introduce it this way. It was this book from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he got famous from this book. This is his ultimate book. Now, this book helped me a little bit in terms of trying to be nicer to people and how to make friends. It didn't exactly make me a nice person. It helped me a little, because you don't want to overdo it. No sense in overachieving in that regard. But this book, and this is the book I'm talking about right now, this is called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And I found this book really helpful. For $17, it does more for you. And the reason I like it is because it gave me some strategies and some practical ways to handle stress and deal with stress and deal with problems that occur. All of us get, by the way. All of us will have family members pass away. All of us will have someone that tries to gaslight us. All of us will have people that are not necessarily nice to us and will manipulate us. And you got to learn how to deal with these things. In addition to that, you may have goals in your life, things you want to achieve, expectations that you have. And you're probably, unless you're very lucky or very bullheaded, you're probably not going to achieve everything that you want to achieve in life. And you're going to have to deal with, what's the word I'm looking for? You're going to have to learn to deal with regret, and you're going to have to deal with disappointment. And this book gives very practical advice, strategies that you can use that can help you. And it really helped me. So I'll put a link in the description down below. What I find in my practice is that there are so many people that their blood pressure is high, not necessarily because of atherosclerosis, not necessarily because of their smoking or things like that. I'm going to say 99.9% of my patients do not smoke, because I'm a healthcare practitioner where most people are coming in because they're looking for ways to improve their health. So that type of person is usually not a smoker. They're usually someone who is looking for that cutting edge of how to improve their health, but yet they have high blood pressure. And learning how to deal with stress can be a major factor in getting people's blood pressure to become normal. And I would encourage you to find ways to deal with stress. It may not be this book, but I will put a link down below in the description if you'd like to look at it. It might be worth looking at. There are 4 reasons why you want to try to avoid coffee, and instead, where is it? Use this stuff, hibiscus tea. Now in just a moment, I will tell you exactly how much hibiscus tea to drink and how it affects blood pressure, how low your blood pressure can be expected to change. But there are 4 reasons why you need to be drinking that. Where'd it go? There it is. Made a little mistake. Number 1, vasodilation. When you drink hibiscus tea, it causes... That's my wife's coffee. She needs her coffee. Hibiscus tea causes vasodilation, which means your arteries dilate and expand. And the reason this is important is because that's exactly how the blood pressure goes down. If you were to constrict the arteries and try to have the same amount of blood go through the artery, then the pressure would go up. Now, when you drink coffee, for example, coffee has caffeine, and for some people, that will actually increase their blood pressure. Number 2, hibiscus tea acts as a natural diuretic. This replicates some of the blood pressure medications that you're probably prescribed. The idea behind this is, instead of expanding the blood vessel, you restrict the amount of blood going through that vessel. So a diuretic allows you to eliminate salt out of the kidneys, or sodium that is, as well as some water, and that's what lowers people's blood pressure. Hibiscus tea is a natural diuretic. Number 3, hibiscus tea is a natural ACE inhibitor. This means that it prevents the production of angiotensin II, which lowers the blood pressure, again replicating many blood pressure medications. The 4th reason, and the most global, is it has an anti-inflammatory effect. Small, chronic, subclinical inflammation is the underlying cause of why our body starts to develop atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of the artery. So if you can do anything or drink anything that reduces inflammation, then you're winning the game in terms of atherosclerosis, so your arteries can stay nice and pliable, thus reducing your blood pressure. Now, research has shown that drinking 2 cups of hibiscus tea per day can significantly lower blood pressure, replicating many blood pressure medications. On average, the systolic number can go down 7.5 millimeters of mercury, and the diastolic number can go down 6.5 millimeters of mercury, which is a significant amount of change simply from changing from coffee to hibiscus tea. Now, when should you drink it? Well, you can drink it any time during the course of the day. It's probably beneficial, instead of drinking 2 cups all at once, to drink 1 in the morning and then 1 later on in the day. And the great thing about hibiscus tea is that if you have any type of kidney disease, it's safe for the kidneys. Of all the things that you could do to lower blood pressure, this one is the biggest, and it's exercise. And many people just overthink it, so we're going to make it very simple. You'll see on the internet the big controversy is, should you do HIIT training or should you do steady state cardio? And I'm going to define the terms so that we understand what we're talking about. Steady state cardio is where you will increase your exercise up to a certain level and you will keep it that way. So let's say you're walking. You would walk at the same speed the entire time you do the workout. Or let's say you're riding a bicycle, or you're rowing, or you're swimming. You would swim or ride a bicycle at the same speed and continue that. That's called steady state cardio. That's the traditional type of exercise we think of when it comes to exercising for your blood pressure. But there have been studies that have shown that certain other types of exercise might be more beneficial. There's HIIT training. Now HIIT, H-I-I-T, stands for high intensity interval training. That is where you might, let's say, be walking, and then you will sprint as fast as you possibly can. You will run as hard as you possibly can, maybe for 30 seconds up to a minute, just to the point where it's like you're running from a tiger. And then you will stop after a minute and then just walk very slowly for about a minute. As you catch your breath, then acting as if you're running away from a tiger, you will sprint and run as fast as humanly possible for another minute. So you're doing 1 minute fast, 1 minute super slow, 1 minute fast, 1 minute super slow. This is called high intensity interval training. There's another type of exercise that has been shown to work extremely well called isometric training. This is where you'll sometimes see people doing a wall squat or a plank, or even just squeezing a hand machine and holding that position for about 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and so forth. So let me break down for you how I would approach someone with high blood pressure. So let's assume a person is 280 pounds, they have extremely high blood pressure, they have type 2 diabetes, insulin resistant, their cholesterol is through the roof, and they have chronic kidney disease, maybe stage 3 or stage 4. How can we use exercise to lower that person's blood pressure? This is a case where isometric exercise might be the best solution for that particular person in the beginning, because number one, it's simple to do. Number two, it's not super strenuous on the heart, and that's important. So they're getting some form of exercise, but they're not overdoing it where it's dangerous. So this is a case where you could take anything. I'm just taking a Lysol can, and you would just squeeze that Lysol can as hard as you can for maybe 15 seconds, and then relax. Maybe use the other hand if your arm gets tired, and squeeze that can as hard as you possibly can, and then relax, and then alternate back and forth for 10 repetitions. And this can be a viable exercise. And one of the fascinating things is research has shown that isometric exercise can, over time, lower blood pressure pretty significantly. Now, if the person's in a little bit better shape, maybe they can do wall sits. Maybe a person can do planks or things of that nature. But let's now discuss the high-intensity interval training. The difficulty with high-intensity interval training is that most people are not in good enough shape to really do high-intensity interval training. What most people are doing when they do high-intensity interval training is they're actually doing just called interval training, meaning they're going a little harder and then they're relaxing because they can't maintain that steady state. So in this particular case, let's say a person is walking. What you will do is you'll be walking along at a reasonable pace. Then you will try to walk a little bit faster, acting as if someone's chasing you, but you don't want to run. The problem with running is many people are just out of shape, or their joints don't work well, or they're too old to be running, that type of thing. But you can walk a little bit faster. So you would walk faster. All of a sudden you're breathing a little bit heavier, your pulse rate is going, your heart is working harder. And then after about a minute, you would relax, slow down, and walk at a reasonable pace after that for about a minute. So you walk faster, then you walk slower. Walk faster, walk slower. This is a way to do interval training. High intensity interval training is a kind of a buzzword. Unfortunately, in the research, when they do these studies, a lot of the research on high intensity interval training, these people are already in good physical condition. So high intensity interval training may lower blood pressure better than steady state cardio, but your joints have to be able to take it. So if you're older with knee replacements and hip replacements and shoulder replacements or severe arthritis, it's hard to do high intensity interval training. But for a lot of people, it's just too difficult. Like I said, if a person is significantly overweight, they have type 2 diabetes, their cholesterol is high, they have chronic kidney disease, and they have joint replacements, it's unreasonable to tell them, okay, buddy, we're gonna run as fast as you humanly can for 60 seconds, and we're gonna do 20 minutes of that. People can't do that. In addition to that, much of the research on high intensity interval training is in a lab setting, so that if someone has a cardiovascular event, a heart attack or a stroke, there's doctors there ready to take care of them. We don't want you going out to a park and doing wind sprints and then all of a sudden you have a heart attack. So while high intensity interval training in the literature shows that it can lower blood pressure, it's probably not safe for the majority of people that are looking to lower their blood pressure that fit this category. So now we jump into the steady state cardio. Can you hear the ambulance? What's the number one reason why people die in America? It's cardiovascular events. That's why we're doing this video. So let them get through this. All right, I think you can hear me. Steady state cardio is something where you start exercising, you build up to an exertion level where you can maintain it for a period of time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half an hour, an hour. So a good rule of thumb is to exercise at a level where your heart rate is approximately 180 minus your age. So if you are 50 years old, 180 minus your age would be 130. So when you're walking, and it doesn't matter, by the way, whether you're walking, running, swimming, cycling, rowing, on a treadmill, your heart doesn't care what the activity is. So you can pick an activity that you like. And for most people, walking is free, it's available. Where I live in Southern California, it's always sunny, 72, light winds from the west. That's our weather the majority of the time, other than the wildfires and the floods and the couple days a year it rains, that type of thing. And then every 10 years we have an earthquake, but who's counting? You're walking and you want to get your heart rate up to a level where it's 180 minus your age. So if you're 50, it'd be 130. If you're 60, it would be 120. That's a good rule of thumb. Now, another way to do it if you don't want to measure your heart rate would be to use the talking test. So as you're exercising, when you're doing your exercise, you should be able to complete very short sentences. So if you are running really fast and you can, oh my God, I can hardly catch my breath, that type of thing, then you're running too fast or you're walking too fast. So you want to slow it down. So you should be able to do a small conversation with someone if you were walking with them. So let me give you an example of what it would sound like. So if I'm walking with someone and I'm exercising and I'm at the right level of intensity for my cardiovascular health, I'd be talking to the person like this. And we're both walking, but I'm a little bit out of breath, but I can still talk to them. Did you see how my conversation was? I'm able to complete very short sentences, but that's about the right intensity of the exercise you want to do. That would be considered steady state cardio. And that's the gold standard to help your cardiovascular fitness so that as a result, your blood pressure goes down. One of the interesting features of exercise is that research has shown that whether you do exercise at a steady state cardio, high intensity interval training, or even isometrics, there's what's called a post-exercise induced hypotension, which means that right after exercise, your blood pressure will go down pretty significantly. And this happens right away after you catch your breath and relax for 5-10 minutes after you exercise. But the benefits of exercise last an entire day. Just as taking blood pressure medications lower your blood pressure for a day, exercise can lower your blood pressure for a day. And this is the reason why steady state cardio is so effective, because it's not as intense as high intensity interval training, but it can be done on a daily basis. So the standard of recommendations is minimum 30 minutes a day, 7 days a week, or you can build up to doing an hour. The amount of reduction that exercise has on a daily basis is equivalent to the results of usually one blood pressure medication. Find the exercise that you can do, try to do it every single day, and you'll be surprised at how well your blood pressure can go down. Breathing exercises can significantly lower your blood pressure for a number of reasons. The first is breathing calmly at least once a day, maybe twice a day, has a very powerful effect on our nervous system, particularly the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is something that calms us down, relaxes us, allows for proper digestion, and also will relax the muscles of our blood vessels to expand and become more pliable, thus lowering our blood pressure. In addition to that, breathing exercises can help stimulate nitric oxide production in our body, which will relax our blood vessels, allow them to become more pliable. So this is really a great, effective thing that everyone can do. It costs you nothing to do it, and it requires very minimal effort. There are 3 types of breathing methods that I'm going to cover with you in this video. You can try out all 3 and see which one works better for you. I will tell you that the third one is the one that I find the easiest to teach, the one that works the best for most people, but of course everyone has their own particular style and everybody has their own particular take on it. So I find some people like the first one better. Go for it. I'm just looking at statistics and seeing that it's the third one that seems to work the best for most people. So let's get into the first one. The first one is called box breathing. And this is where, when you think of a box, it's got 4 equal components. You're going to inhale for 4 seconds. That's the inhalation. Then you will hold your breath for 4 seconds. Then you will exhale for 4 seconds, and then you will hold your breath again for 4 seconds. Now, I find that people that used to smoke and have obstructive pulmonary disease, some people that don't really exercise a lot have a hard time with this one because of the holding breath, but some people do find it beneficial. So it's very simple. So you inhale. Now, it's best to inhale through your nose and out through your mouth, but some people find it's easier to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Try all methods, but I can tell you that breathing in through the nose is probably better because there's a direct stimulation to the parasympathetic nervous system. So here we go with some box breathing. Almost forgot to count there. So it's very simple. You can do 5 or 6 cycles of that and then breathe normally, and then try 5 or 6 cycles again. You want to try to make it a goal to breathe this way for about 5 minutes, and you'll notice that your blood pressure significantly goes down. Now, there is the first number of the blood pressure and the second number. The first number is the systolic, of course, and that's where your heart is beating and pushing blood through your arteries. And the second number is when your heart is filling up with blood and not beating. There's still pressure inside your arteries, but not as much. That's why the first number is always a bigger number than the second number. Here's the interesting thing. The first number is the most changeable when it comes to emotional stress and mental stress. So breathing exercises can have profound changes on the first number in particular. And you can try this. You can take your blood pressure, do some box breathing for about 5 minutes, and then check your blood pressure again. And you may notice that the one that makes the biggest change is the first number, the systolic. And that's a good sign that it's possible that stress may be playing a role in your blood pressure. Now, if breathing does not change your blood pressure at all, then what that means is there may be some other reason why your blood pressure is so high. You could have atherosclerosis, severe. You can have stenosis of an artery. You can have other causes of blood pressure. But for a lot of people, stress plays a major role in high blood pressure, particularly of the systolic number, the first one. So let's get into the second way to breathe. This is the 4-7-8 method, and this is a little bit different than box breathing in that after you exhale, you'll directly go back into inhaling. I find that people that do box breathing that have a hard time with holding their breath, this works a little bit better for them. So how this works is you're going to inhale for 4 seconds, you're going to hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then you're going to exhale with 8 seconds. Then, right after exhaling, you go right back into inhaling for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, exhale for 8. So it looks like this. And you continue. So some people find that this is very, very relaxing. Again, it's a modification of the box breathing. Try both, see what works. A good test would be on separate days to check your blood pressure before and after 5 minutes of this deep breathing. See which one seems to work better for you. Now, let's get into the third, and in my humble opinion, the most effective way to do it. The person who popularized this the best recently is Wim Hof, and it's so simple that most people just overthink it, and they want to know how to make it more complex. But it's so simple that it's easy to remember, and there's no holding the breath. What you do in this particular case is you will inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and the manner in which you do it is you're going to take as deep of a breath as you possibly can. Imagine you were going to jump into a pool and hold your breath underwater. When you do that, you're going to take as deep of a breath as you possibly can. So when you inhale, you're going to inhale with your entire being, your belly, your chest, everything. Everything expands. You're going to expand your lungs as big as you can, but inhaling through the nose. Then when you exhale, just let the air out of your mouth as if you're letting the air out of a balloon. It just naturally comes out. You're not timing it, but you're doing this in a calm, slow, controlled manner. This is not hyperventilating. Hyperventilating, the way most people would hyperventilate, was when they're having an anxiety attack where they're doing very shallow, quick breaths. That's not what you're doing in this. That's a big misconception. So it's going to look like this. And when I let the air out, I just mentally relax. You're going to do this for about 5 minutes and just super oxygenate your body. These are 3 different methods that, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, you can take your blood pressure before and after. You can see which one works better for you, but nonetheless, all these breathing methods, whichever you should choose, have some tremendous benefits on our blood pressure in that it lowers our blood pressure. It can lower our systolic blood pressure significantly. I've seen some people, and in myself, your systolic number can literally go down 30, 35, 40 points if you're really having a bad time. If someone's having an anxiety attack, if someone's really stressed out and their blood pressure is going through the roof, kind of a blood pressure emergency, these are the methods I would choose. But once a person figures out what works best for them, you just stick with that. One of the easiest and quickest ways to lower blood pressure is to eat nitrate-rich foods. There's a reason why. Because when we eat nitrates, that is the raw material our body uses to create nitric oxide, which will widen our blood vessels. Now, one of the problems is, and I'm making a joke, but I'm not really making a joke, is the moment I said nitrate-rich foods, if I say the word beets, already people are typing oxalates. Everybody knows that beets have oxalates. We understand that. And there are some people that are sensitive to oxalates. This is important because if you are sensitive to oxalates, you want to be careful with eating foods that are high in nitrates, because what ends up happening is you can get kidney stones. Some people with oxalates develop kidney stones. Kidney stones are no joke. So most of the research on nitrate-rich foods have used beets. The reason why is because of all the vegetables out there that have nitrates, beets are the most nutrient dense. Now, beetroot specifically is a root vegetable. And when you juice it, there's a tremendous amount of nitrates, and it's been shown through research, and I'll put links down below in the description, that within 3 hours, your blood pressure is radically changed. And when people drink 8 ounces of beetroot juice every day for a period of, let's say, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, that type of thing, these people can literally be taken off medication. Their blood pressure goes so low. In fact, beetroot juice is so effective at lowering blood pressure. You really need to be careful if you're taking blood pressure medications that are lowering your blood pressure, and then you start changing your diet that's lowering your blood pressure. You can lower your blood pressure in theory too much and then start getting dizzy and feeling faint, being a little wobbly on your feet, so you want to be careful. But if beetroot juice can lower your blood pressure significantly and do it within 3 hours, and it's as effective as some medications, and it can last almost an entire day, then it would be worth doing if it's safe for your body. Now, there's other vegetables and foods that have nitrates. In a simple Google search, you can find these things. There's beetroot, there's spinach, there's arugula. There's lots of different foods that have nitrates, but the nitrates are converted into nitric oxide very quickly, and you can change your blood pressure very, very fast. For many people, their weight loss strategy consists of this. Now, coffee is very much used for weight loss because the caffeine is a stimulant. If you have not eaten any food and you just drink something that has caffeine in it, like coffee, it will help you break down fat so that that fat will now create glucose in your bloodstream so that you have the energy. The main problem with coffee is that the caffeine, it raises your blood pressure. It blocks a hormone that normally widens your blood vessels, and if it blocks that, then the arteries will stay constricted. Caffeine will also cause the adrenal glands to release adrenaline. Now, these are 2 very good reasons why you should not be drinking coffee. For some people, trying to get them to stop drinking coffee is like trying to take a bone away from a pit bull. If you have high blood pressure, what do? One option is to drink decaffeinated coffee if you really love the taste. The other option is to just try something else, go cold turkey. I could tell you this, that the coffee maker that I just showed you It's not mine, it's my wife's. And if you've ever tried to take a coffee drinker's coffee pot and let them know that they shouldn't drink coffee, good luck to you. Just be aware that if you are having trouble with high blood pressure and you can't figure it out, if you had a cup of coffee in the morning and then your doctor's appointment was an hour and a half later, that may be a reason why your blood pressure always seems to be high. Nuts and seeds can have a profound effect on your blood pressure. First of all, they're high in magnesium. Magnesium is a very important mineral that helps relax our blood vessels, as well as many other functions in our body. Nuts have monounsaturated fats, which help keep our arteries nice and supple. Nuts have phytosterols, which help lower our blood pressure as well. Nuts and seeds have nutrients that help increase nitric oxide production, which helps dilate our blood vessels. The big problem with nuts and seeds is many people have allergies to them. So if you are allergic to, for example, a peanut, then you simply cannot eat a peanut. It doesn't mean that peanuts are bad for everyone. It means peanuts are bad for you. Looking at the nutritional density of every single nut out there, the best nut, the most nutritious, would be the pistachio. I'll put some links down below in the description if you want to try some pistachios. You can just get them off Amazon or get them from a local store. A good way to start putting these in the diet is to simply just once a day get some nuts and seeds, put them in your hand. About a handful is really all you need to get a tremendous amount of nutrients to help your blood pressure. Fish can help you lower blood pressure. One of the most convenient types of fish are sardines. Like most fatty fish, sardines have omega-3 fatty acids in them, which help keep our arteries nice and supple. Sardines are convenient because they're canned. You could take them anywhere. They don't have to be refrigerated, and they can be packed with olive oil, which has monounsaturated fats, which also helps your heart. How do omega-3 fatty acids work? They work by relaxing the smooth muscle on the inner lining of our arteries. They affect the calcium and potassium channels inside the cells of our inner lining of our arteries. And this is what allows the arteries to become more pliable and widen. As a side note, omega-3 fatty acids play a major role in reducing inflammation, which is the underlying reason why atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, occurs. Just make sure the ones that you're buying are not super high in salt. You can eat them out of a can. You can eat them while you stand. You can eat them anytime, Sam I am. Cinnamon has an effect on blood pressure, which is kind of amazing. It lowers our blood pressure. The reason why is because cinnamon does two things. Number one, it relaxes blood vessels. And number two, it reduces our bad cholesterol. Now, there's a lot on YouTube regarding that you should have higher bad cholesterol. And you're just gonna have to figure out whether that kind of theory is right for you. Many people are eating just the average diet and their cholesterol is super high. That is their bad cholesterol. And then they change to another type of diet which emphasizes increasing their bad cholesterol, which is fine if that's what you want to do, but for a lot of people, they're trying to reduce their bad cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol, and cinnamon is a very simple way to do that. You could add cinnamon to any type of food that you like, that you think will taste good, and it just adds another spice to the food. Turmeric can lower your blood pressure because what it does, it inhibits an enzyme whose goal is to narrow the blood vessels. So by inhibiting that enzyme, it allows the blood vessels to open up and widen. The interesting thing about turmeric is that many blood pressure medications, their mechanism of lowering blood pressure is the same exact enzyme. It's important that you know this, and the reason why is because if you're gonna start trying to get healthy and trying to use different spices and supplements to improve your blood pressure, you need to be real careful because you don't wanna take a blood pressure medication and supplements or other spices that are doing the same exact thing, because then you can lower your blood pressure too much. Turmeric is very interesting because it not only lowers your blood pressure, but it lowers your blood sugar and it lowers inflammation. So if you're taking a medication that's doing the exact same thing, obviously you want to be careful, but you can always ask your doctor, hey, why not try a more natural approach, change your diet, add turmeric to your diet. You can either do it in the form of applying it to food, or you can take capsules. I'm a big proponent of trying to do things naturally, so before you start going down the rabbit hole of doing just nothing but medications and eating your normal diet, maybe change the diet and add turmeric as a spice that can maybe help you. Now, personally, I don't like the taste, but you may really enjoy the taste, so you can add it to all your food. I usually will just take capsules. I take a number of capsules to help my overall health, but that's for another video. Dark chocolate can lower your blood pressure, but it's very important that you get the right type of chocolate. Eating M&Ms is not going to work. It's the flavonoids in the dark chocolate that are the parts that really make it effective. The flavonoids are the ones that help your body produce more nitric oxide in the blood vessels that helps widen and relax the blood vessels, thus lowering your blood pressure. So the darker chocolate, the better, right? Well, some people don't like the taste. So some of the options are you could either learn to love the taste, or what I do is I'll put a little bit in a smoothie. That way the flavor of the chocolate is not as strong, but you still get those benefits. And of course, it'll help your blood pressure. Why do flax seeds help our blood pressure? The reason why is because they have omega-3 fatty acids. Many people don't like the taste of fish, or maybe they're vegan and they don't want to harm the animals. Thus, flax seeds are a viable option to get omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce our blood pressure by playing a role in the calcium-potassium channels inside the cells, and that's what allows the blood vessels to relax. The other component is omega-3 fatty acids play a major role in reducing chronic inflammation in our body. And by reducing chronic inflammation, you're able to help atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of the artery. And that's how it helps blood pressure. Now, the one caveat with flax seeds is you do have to grind them. They're a very hard seed. And if you've ever eaten raw flax seeds, you'll know that they don't really digest very well. In fact, they go right through you, if you know what I mean. Beans like garbanzo beans, red kidney beans, all different types of beans can help lower your blood pressure. They have fiber, magnesium, calcium, potassium. Magnesium plays a major role in all sorts of things, including blood pressure, because it helps relax your blood vessels. Potassium is another mineral that tremendously improves blood pressure. They increase the production of nitric oxide. They soften the blood vessels. They allow the smooth muscles to relax, which is the whole basis of lowering blood pressure. Fiber is very important for our gut health. Now, I get it. Some people, their digestive system cannot handle fiber, and that's okay. If that's the condition that you're in right now, then you can certainly use other methods to lower blood pressure. But it's undeniable that fiber is healthy for healthy people. Some people that have diseases like, let's say, GERD, for example, simply cannot handle fiber and maybe need to eat a more restrictive diet. But ultimately, beans have so many health benefits. There's so many minerals, so many vitamins, so much stuff packed into a little tiny low-calorie food that it's worth eating if you can handle it. Pumpkin seeds are a little secret weapon that is used to help lower blood pressure. And the reason why is because of the amount of potassium in pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are extremely packed with potassium, and potassium is noted for its ability to lower blood pressure fairly quickly. So a handful of pumpkin seeds can make a tremendous difference in your blood pressure. You don't have to eat a lot of them. Just an ounce or two can have a tremendous effect on your blood pressure. And because they have high fiber, because they have high potassium, because they're high in magnesium, just a handful once a day is a worthwhile thing to do for your overall health. Many people do not want to eat pumpkin seeds because either it bothers their stomach or they don't like the taste, and those are good reasons not to eat pumpkin seeds. But this is just something to throw out there, that if you can make the pumpkin seeds taste good by baking them, little olive oil, little vinegar, little salt and pepper, you can add to that by using a potassium chloride instead of a sodium chloride. Some people believe you should never eat the seed of a fruit because it's bad for you, it's poison. Some people believe that fruits and vegetables are trying to kill us because they're toxic. And that's one argument. but it's undeniable that pumpkin seeds have a high amount of potassium and can lower blood pressure. So if you're looking for natural ways to lower your blood pressure, you want to find ways to increase the amount of potassium in your diet. Usually foods with potassium are also high in magnesium. One of the greatest things you could do for your blood pressure is to exercise, but there are certain exercises that are more relaxed, easier to do, have a calming effect on you rather than an intense effect. So instead of doing high intensity interval training, or instead of doing some type of cardio exercise that for many people is very stressful, there's another type of exercise that you may want to try called Qigong. Now, Qigong is an ancient Chinese practice of movement and tapping to improve one's health. What you'll do is tap on certain meridians that can help you calm the nervous system down and thus lower your blood pressure. And I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do it right now. And just so you know, there are 7 randomized controlled trials showing that Qigong can lower blood pressure. Amazing. Continuous practice with this can lower your systolic numbers by 10 points and your diastolic numbers by 6 points. So some of these are very easy. What you will do is you will stand up straight, breathing calmly through your nose and out through your mouth, and taking your fingertips and finding the end of the collarbone where it attaches to your sternum. And there's 2 knobs right there that you can feel where the bones are prominent. You're going to go just 10 millimeters lower and 5 millimeters out, taking your fingertips, standing up straight, breathing calmly, and tapping like this, 1 every second for about 1 minute. So 60 taps within 1 minute. The next meridian point is 25 millimeters below the belly button and just about 10 millimeters away from the center line. And in this particular one, what you will do is you will stand up nice and straight, again, breathing in through your nose, and you're going to use the bottom parts of your fists to tap like this, really fast. Now you're going to make sure and bend your knees, and when you stand up, every time you kind of hit this area, you're going to go up and down, just like this. This is going to do many things, but you will find after about a minute of doing that, it will help calm your nervous system down. The last one is right above your brow, right here. Just taking 2 fingers, breathing in through your nose, and tapping for about a minute. These 3 different points will help lower your blood pressure. Now what's interesting is many people have found that Qigong is very helpful as an exercise because not only is it tapping meridians, but it's going through certain movements. And I want to encourage you to look at some other videos and maybe even take a class. In my particular area where I live, there are classes at the local park and rec, for example. You could take classes and it doesn't cost that much money. But if you are not interested in high intensity interval training, you're not interested in running or cycling or rowing or swimming, and you want something that is a little bit easier or more relaxing, Qigong might actually help you. White coat syndrome is an important component of understanding why our blood pressure can sometimes be extremely high. First of all, what is white coat syndrome? Traditionally, doctors wore white coats. I used to wear a white coat for about 20 years, and eventually I started wearing scrubs. It's a lot easier, a lot more comfortable, and it's just the new way of dressing. Doctors used to wear a white coat, and the moment the doctor entered the room, people would get anxiety, they would have fear, they would be nervous, and their blood pressure would go higher than what it normally is at rest. So the doctor brings one of these out, starts to scare you even more, takes your blood pressure, and what do you know? You have high blood pressure at that moment. Thing is, normally, if you weren't so nervous and didn't have anxiety about seeing the doctor and weren't scared of getting blood pressure taken, your blood pressure would be normal. The main reason why this is a problem is because you may have normal blood pressure, but only have high blood pressure when you are nervous or have anxiety at the doctor's office. So the doctor thinks that you have high blood pressure, gives you a bunch of medication to lower your blood pressure. You start taking the blood pressure medication, and then you start feeling really woozy all the time. You're kind of slow-witted at this point, more so than normal. You start losing your balance, and potentially you may fall, break a hip, and that's not good. But you just feel lethargic because, unfortunately, your blood pressure was normal. Then they gave you medications that lowered your blood pressure way below what's normal for you, and now you're suffering with hypotension, not hypertension. Now, to complicate matters, it may not just be anxiety and nervousness at the doctor's office. There may be a number of mistakes made when checking your blood pressure, such as rushing you, talking during the exam. There's just a lot of factors, but we're assuming that the doctor or the nurse takes the blood pressure really accurately. They're using the right blood pressure cuff size. They're putting it in the right area. They're not rushing you. Your body is positioned well in a chair with a back support. Your upper arm is at heart level. Those sorts of things. Sometimes with automatic blood pressure machines where the nurse pushes a button and the machine does it all, these tend to pump the cuff up a little too hard. So sometimes you'll actually get pain when your blood pressure is being taken, and that can further raise your blood pressure abnormally. So what are the solutions for this? A couple things. The first is understanding that you may have white coat syndrome. Typically, the systolic number, which is the first number of your blood pressure, will be significantly higher than the normal blood pressure that you have. This is a result of your sympathetic nervous system being stimulated because of nervousness and pain and various things. And the first number, the systolic, is more sensitive to those types of things. But knowing this, you can ask the doctor to take the blood pressure again after about 5 minutes of relaxation. Typically, if a doctor sees that you are nervous, they'll check your blood pressure in the beginning of the appointment, and then after the appointment is done, after all your questions are answered and you're essentially finished with the appointment, they'll check your blood pressure again at the end, and you'll be surprised. For most people, the blood pressure is less, unless they gave you some major diagnosis like you have 3 days to live, or you have cancer, or you're gonna die, or you're gonna have surgery. That's the worst time to take someone's blood pressure. You're Mr. Jones, you're gonna die in 3 days. You have terminal cancer. Can I check your blood pressure again? Another option for some people is to use a wrist blood pressure machine. This is sometimes a little bit less painful, a little bit less intimidating, not as accurate as doing it up in the upper arm, but it ballparks it for you, so that's good. The other option that you can do, and this is kind of a lost art, older doctors are good at this because that's the only choice they had in the beginning, so they're more skilled at it, is to do your blood pressure with an old-fashioned stethoscope and old-fashioned cuff. And the reason this is important is because you can actually pump up the cuff just enough to check the blood pressure without overinflating it like most automatic blood pressure machines, and thus reduce pain, and that takes pain of the blood pressure test out of the equation. Lastly, you can do breathing exercises before you have your blood pressure taken. You can ask the nurse or whoever is putting you into the room, ask them for 5 minutes of time before you get your blood pressure checked, so you can do some deep breathing, stay calm, learn how to take your blood pressure yourself at home. And that's another option, is if your doctor keeps saying you have high blood pressure, but you take it at home and it's always normal, show him the numbers, bring in your own blood pressure cuff, and show him the history of normal blood pressure for you. Lastly, you can take magnesium or potassium supplements. Those have a calming effect on our nervous system and can help lower blood pressure. In summary, there is a solution to white coat syndrome. Most people put doctors on a pedestal and think they're high and mighty, and it's intimidating when you go to a doctor. Most people are going to a doctor not for fun, but because they have a pain somewhere, or they're seeking help for a problem that they're having that they're nervous about. So it's normal for your blood pressure to be higher at a doctor's office than under normal circumstances. But when doctors are rushed, nurses are rushed, some seemingly aren't aware of white coat syndrome. You need to be aware of it. It's a legitimate thing. So make sure and take these action steps, and you can prevent unnecessary medication. There are many different types of supplements that can help you lower your blood pressure. I'm going to go over my protocol. These are the supplements that are in particular will help blood pressure. I take other supplements, for example, but they're not really related for blood pressure function. These are primarily what I think, if someone were to be focused on trying to control their blood pressure, what I think they should take. You have to decide what is right for you, but I'm going to go over the supplements that I think would be beneficial. I'll put links down below in the description of where you can find these things, but you can certainly find them anywhere. You use Amazon, it's delivered right to your door. You can order things, or you can go to your local health food store and get things like that. So the first thing, and I would say this is the fastest way to lower your blood pressure, would be to use some type of beet supplement. This is the one I like. It's called liquid beets, and sometimes I'll just eat beets on their own, and on a day if I do not take a supplement, it's usually because I've already eaten the food. Supplements are really designed to fill the void of your diet. Now, it's very difficult to eat a perfect diet as much as we try. So let's say, for example, my wife is making food and we're making beets, or I have beets in my smoothie or something like that. I won't use a supplement. But on a day when maybe I didn't get them, the great thing about a beet supplement is it lowers your blood pressure extremely fast. Literally within an hour, your blood pressure will lower and will stay that way for half a day. Okay. If you do it every single day, you have the benefits all the time. Just like taking a blood pressure medication, the blood pressure medication, only lasts 24 hours. That's why the doctor wants you to take it every day. Some blood pressure medications only last about 12 hours, very similar. So that's why they want you to take your blood pressure medication twice a day. So that's something that's useful, is some type of beet supplement. Has very fast acting type of response. The next thing is some type of, this is MK7. I'm going to put it up here, show you here. This is vitamin K2. Now the reason I take this is because it controls the amount of calcium in your blood vessel to make sure that your arteries essentially don't calcify and become hardened. One of the challenges is there needs to be a significant balance of calcium in your blood vessels to maintain optimal health. And if you're not getting into your diet, then what happens is your body, in an effort to have homeostasis, will start to pull calcium from your bones to maintain an even level of calcium in your bloodstream. Well, you don't want that, because you don't want excessive calcium in your bloodstream, and you want the calcium in your bones. So you just simply take one of these a day. It's no big deal. Take it with food, and that's important. The other thing is you take it with a vitamin D. Now, on a day when I'm outside for 5 hours or something like that, I'm not going to take my vitamin D supplement. But during times of winter, during times when I'm not outside a lot, I'll take this. This is from Anabolic. I found that after you take a number of supplements, this is a powder, for example. I just don't like swallowing so many tablets. And this is it is so small. It is a micro tab, and it is so small, it's just easier to swallow. Some tablets are really big. This is the one that I have found is the smallest and easiest to take. So I take, 5,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, which keeps my vitamin D levels just perfect. The next thing that I do is, and this is more for athletic purposes, but it lowers your blood pressure, is I'll take this. This is the same company, Nature's Pure Blend. This is called liquid nitric oxide. And what this has in it, it has L-arginine and L-citrulline. And L-arginine will lower your blood pressure very quickly, just like the beets will. But the L-citrulline is more of a long-lasting effect. So whereas the L-arginine will lower your blood pressure fairly quickly and last for maybe half a day or something like that, the L-citrulline needs to be converted by our body, particularly the kidneys, but it will be converted into L-arginine and then lowers your blood pressure. It helps dilate and relax the blood vessels. So the great thing about it is, almost like that Jerry Seinfeld joke of now and later, the candy. This solves the problem of, do you want fast acting or long lasting? Actually, it was that wasn't the now and later joke. It was a cold medicine joke, but he was talking about now and later, so there's that. So the last thing I take this, it helps blood pressure, but the reality is what it does, it helps sleep, which helps when you have a good deep sleep. It helps you regulate your hormones so that you can be healthy and rested, which helps your blood pressure. And that's this. This is Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. I love this stuff. It has 7 different types of magnesium. So as you probably already know, there are many different types of magnesium. Some have an effect on your heart a little more. Some have an effect on your sleep a little more. Some are a little more absorbable. Well, it has all the different types of magnesium, because magnesium is hard to get enough of. Even if you eat a lot of vegetables and a lot of fruits, it's because of unless you're eating all organic, you're probably not getting as much magnesium as you probably should. And because I like to ride bicycles for many hours and I'm out there sweating, I'm losing a lot of electrolytes. So taking a magnesium supplement at night helps me sleep. And that way in the next morning I feel rested, never get any cramps when I ride or anything like that. So those are the supplements that I use to help me regulate my own blood pressure. And again, I'll put links down below in the description for those. But when it comes to supplements, just to be aware, and this is kind of the disclaimer, is don't just rely on supplements. And if you're going to take a bunch of supplements, always ask your doctor, because some of them may interfere with some of your medications. And actually, because supplements are effective at controlling blood pressure, they may actually work so good that they take your body's blood pressure that's been lowered by the medication and lower it even more. So eventually you have to talk to your doctor about, do you want to take supplements or do you want to take medication? So some of them, you do want to make sure that you don't overdo it. The last thing is that supplements are exactly that. They supplement your diet. They fill gaps in your diet. They fill the holes where you're not getting it in your normal life. A good example of that would be that a person who is eating a 12-ounce steak 3 or 4 times a day should not need a protein supplement. They may need other supplements that steak doesn't provide the nutrients, but ultimately the same goes true as if you are only eating vegetables or you're a fruitarian, which I don't understand that. But for the most part, if you're only eating fruit, you're probably not getting enough protein. So when you think of supplements, think of you're trying to replace what you're not getting in your diet. So a protein supplement doesn't make any sense for someone who's eating a lot of protein in their diet, but it does make sense for someone who is not eating any protein in their diet. So that's something to just keep in mind. Intermittent fasting is a way you could possibly lower your blood pressure. It's worked for many people. Not exactly for the reason they may think, but it doesn't really matter why you think it works. The fact is that intermittent fasting is something that a lot of people are doing now, and it's been done variously for many years. And let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do. First of all, some people's view of intermittent fasting, and this is an interpretation, is to just simply stop eating breakfast. For many people, just not eating breakfast and waiting till lunchtime is a form of intermittent fasting. So if you're normally eating 3 meals a day, let's say, oh, I got a message. Oh, that was my brother. He's teaching me how to play guitar. Intermittent fasting. If you eat 500 calories per meal, and let's say you're eating 3 meals a day, so you're eating 1,500 calories, and you just skip one meal, but you eat the same amount of food on the other meals, you just reduce the amount of calories that you're eating. You're eating less food is what it boils down to. And when that happens, for most people, they start to lose weight. And when you lose weight, there's less work on your heart. And that's how you lower blood pressure. Now, some people feel as though that if they skip breakfast, they're creating autophagy and their body is eating away at the bad cells, like a Pac-Man, if you remember what Pac-Man used to be. Well, that may happen, it may not. But here's something to consider, that most people are not eating from the moment they wake up continuously to the moment they go to bed. If you are, my guess is you've got some problems, but that's just a guess. By skipping breakfast, you're taking away a lot of food that you normally would be eating, but if you don't eat from the last night's dinner to the next day's lunch, when you do that, your body is given a little bit of a chance to rest, and to hormonally, your body will produce more glucagon in the pancreas. Your insulin levels will go down because you're simply not eating any food, so there's no reason the pancreas would secrete insulin. And your body starts to utilize fat as an energy source when you don't eat for that long. Now, all of us are intermittent fasting to some degree. When you don't eat after dinner and then you eat at breakfast time, that could feasibly be 12 hours. But the idea behind intermittent fasting is that you will spread that out a little bit. If you can just push lunch to maybe noon, and you ate dinner at 6 o'clock the previous night, then we're not talking 12 hours anymore. We're talking 18 hours, right? So that's actually better in theory. Then people can extend it even farther and say, well, don't eat lunch until 2 o'clock and then eat dinner at 6. So you have a 4-hour window with which you're going to eat. Well, there's only so much food you could shove into your pie hole when you only eat between 2 and 4, or between 2 and 6, because by 6 o'clock you're still kind of full from the 2 o'clock eating. But if you can eat from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, or maybe 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, or with some people, I have a lot of patients who eat only once a day. They eat as much food as they possibly can during that time, but you can only shove in so many calories or so much food before you just start to feel full. So there is a benefit to that. And I'm not recommending it, but there is a benefit to it, is that you will lose weight because you're simply not eating enough food. It's very simple. So we call it intermittent fasting because it sounds more scientific in things, but you're just skipping meals. Now the problem is it doesn't work for most people. Why? Because some people are really active. In my particular case, my staff and I get here at 8 o'clock and we don't leave until 6 o'clock, sometimes 6:30. So to say that I can't eat lunch until 2 o'clock, I've got to work. I might be seeing 20 people in the morning, and it's a very active job. I'm on my feet, I'm pushing on people and doing stuff. And it's like a physical workout sometimes. I need nutrients. Then I've only got a short window with which to eat lunch. I can't eat lunch at 2 o'clock because I have patients. I can't stop seeing patients and say, hey, I have to eat at this particular time. And then I can't eat dinner at 4 in the afternoon. I'm at work. Some people who have jobs, intermittent fasting kind of doesn't really work because your schedule is set by your job. So that's difficult. The second thing is there are a certain amount of protein requirements that we need. So for example, I've been calculated to need about 100 grams of protein per day because of the amount of activity level that I do, because of my body weight, my body fat percent, and so forth. But I need 100 grams of protein per day. That's very difficult to get all that protein in one sitting. It's just too much food. you can't eat it, which is the benefit for a lot of people that have issues with food, eating too much food. If you find yourself, you eat breakfast, you have snacks, you sit in front of the TV or the computer and you're munching on potato chips or things like that, and then you have lunch and you can't refrain from portion control. It's too difficult, so you eat a lot at lunch and you always eat everything on your plate. Then intermittent fasting might be an option for these people because they have a self-control problem and there's too much food going in their mouth. So intermittent fasting is a very definite solution for some people. But let's put on a Saturday for myself. If you know me, I usually ride my bicycles on Saturdays and Sundays and other days, but how am I supposed to go out, wake up in the morning, eat nothing, go for a 60-mile bike ride or 50-mile bike ride with no food and only get all my nutrients from one meal? So intermittent fasting does not work for everyone, especially people that are active, that need a number of nutrients to maintain their body. But for most people, they're just eating too much. And intermittent fasting is a very simple way to limit the amount of food that you eat. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm going to talk and discuss exactly my daily routine when it comes to maintaining healthy blood pressure. Now, some of this I've already mentioned in the video that I do, but I'm going to put it from a morning till evening game plan on an average day. Now, I'm going to pick today. Today is an average day at work. It's not an average day during the weekend where I'm exercising. I'll discuss that in just a moment. But in the morning, I usually have the same exact breakfast. I have 2 or 3 eggs scrambled with olive oil, salt and pepper, and an apple. It's very simple. That is my breakfast. So I do not do intermittent fasting. I'm not trying to do a keto or a carnivore or a fruitarian or a vegetarian or anything like that. I'm just eating 3 eggs, apple. Very simple. I get to work. I have snacks at work because my job is very, very active and I get hungry. And so I usually carry with me some type of nuts. Usually we just pick what's on sale at the supermarket. I'll either get cashews or almonds. I like those. Sometimes I'll make myself a trail mix, or my wife makes me a trail mix, to be honest. And she puts all different kinds of things in it, some raisins, almonds, cashews, that type of thing, pumpkin seeds, things like that. And I just have it in a Tupperware. And sometimes in between patients, if I have 5 seconds here or there, I'll grab a little handful, about 1 ounce, pop it in my mouth, gets me going. For lunch, it honestly depends on the season, but it's very similar. Sometimes during summer times, I'll make a smoothie. I have lots of smoothie recipes that I've made on my channel. You can just look those up. But a lot of times I'll have some type of meat, like chicken or meat, and some type of vegetable, whether it's green beans. Peas are easy. I will sometimes have peas and carrots. I will have some type of vegetable with a protein. Very simple. Now, after lunch, I come back and I will, again, have my snack somewhere in between patients, between 2 and 6, and just a little ounce of nuts of some sort. I like that. Occasionally, I'll bring cheese to the office, and we have a refrigerator here. I'll just put it in there. And then at dinner time, I always eat whatever my wife wants to make. And I don't complain, and I don't bitch, and I don't whine, and I don't judge. So if we're having spaghetti with meat sauce, I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's carbohydrates. That will kill him. No, hasn't killed me yet. In fact, my wife loves to cook. She makes amazing stuff. So whether we're having a soup or some type of meat, or we're barbecuing meat, or we're having chicken and vegetables, it's always delicious That's what I say if you want to stay married, but it is. She really is a good cook. And whatever she wants to make is fine. If she's had a stressful day in her life and we're going to go out, we tend to go out. Not very often, but that's my day. Now, in the beginning of the day, when I get to work, a couple things I do that help with blood pressure. Number one, I always come into work, put my stuff away, turn on the lights, and then I do some isometric exercises. Now, these are not necessarily for blood pressure per se, but what I do is I'll do some planks, some side planks, some bird dogs, I'll do Supermans, and then I will just take a moment to just do some deep breathing exercises. Now, of course, we're trying to keep our blood pressure healthy, but the reason I do that is, first of all, I warm up for the day. Remember I said, as a doctor of chiropractic, this is a physical job. This is not easy. The first patient that I see might be 2 times my body weight. And so I have to warm up my shoulders, I have to warm up my spine, so I get my body going, exercise-wise. Now today is a Monday, and I'm not gonna do any exercise today. Today is my day off, other than those exercises that I mentioned in the deep breathing. Now on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, I go for bike rides. And during those bike rides, everything that I said still runs true. The difference is when I'm out on the bike, think of that as like my work here. If I'm at work for 4 hours, or I'm on my bike for 4 hours, it's the same exact thing. Except for when I ride my bike, I'm going to eat every hour on the hour. So about every 16-ish miles, I'm eating. So in other words, for a 4-hour bike ride, I'm carrying 3 items of food. And what I will usually bring is either maple syrup or bananas. Those are my go-to. I will occasionally bring bars like Cliff bars, which I'm kind of bored of now. I like Laura bars, I like RX bars. But when I go for a bike ride, I need calories and I need carbohydrate. Otherwise, you bonk. And a bonk is where your body has run out of energy, and it's a very bad feeling. So the way to avoid that is to eat enough calories, and simple calories like bananas and maple syrup. Now I know that the average person that's watching my channel is probably freaking out right now, but the average person has not gotten this far in the video, so I'm just going to tell you the truth. Carbohydrates, when people think of carbohydrates, they think bad. And what they're thinking of is cookies and cake and donuts and things like that. But carbohydrates are necessary if you're going to be athletic, because you need calories, you need food, you need energy. That's just normal. And maple syrup and bananas are not the reason why America is obese. Diabetes doesn't occur from eating maple syrup and bananas on a bike ride. Diabetes occurs because we've overloaded what our pancreas can handle. But during activity like a bike ride, your pancreas can handle that sugar. It can handle those carbohydrates. Now, occasionally, once a week, I may have something bad for me. And I like to think of having balance in life. And that's important, because if I were to tell you that you're just simply going to pick one food, let's do steak, because that's very popular, the ultimate carnivore diet, like a Sean Baker type of diet, where you only eat steak once a day, or John Jagritz, the guy that invented the X3, he's buff, man, he's buff. But supposedly he's talked about he only eats steak once a day, well, OMAD, that type of thing. And that's fine for them. But I like to enjoy life. If we're going to go out with friends and we're going to go to a restaurant, I may eat something that isn't so healthy. But here's the thing to consider, and this is how I do it. Number one, I'm thinking that on the average day, I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 2 snacks. I eat 5 times a day. 5 times 7 is 35. So I'm actually eating 35 different meals per week. Now, not all these meals are huge. Remember, a lot of these snacks are only 1 ounce of a piece of cheese or 1 ounce of nuts. But 35 times I'm putting stuff in my mouth, not assuming the cycling. That's just normal day added up. It's actually more. If one of those meals is not the healthiest meal, I don't flip out. I don't worry. And this is the last part of the conversation here, and the thing I want to portray of how I control my blood pressure is I have worked at this very hard, is to learn how to not stress. If we go to someone's house for a party and they're serving a certain type of food and it's not keto or it's not carnivore, it's not vegan, it's not vegetarian, I eat it without judging. And I will eat it and happily say thank you to the host and not make an issue. Nobody even knows what the name of the diet I eat because I don't tell people. It's not important. I have learned to not stress. I have learned to understand that if I eat 35 times in a week, 1 out of 35 is not going to kill you. And thus, I'm able to not have stress about it. I don't take my blood pressure 5 times a day like a lot of people. I work on the solution rather than just checking it all the time. And the solution is a way to live a life that has no stress whatsoever. No, trust me, I get EOBs in my office. I have stress. So does she. But we mentally learn how to handle it so we just don't overload our brain and stimulate so much cortisol in our body that we're just wanting to be angry all the time. So that's how I do it. That's how I personally do it. You may have a different way of solving your blood pressure issues. For some people, they need extreme ways. They need extreme diets and extreme amounts of supplements and extreme amounts of types of breathing and this type of thing, but I just don't stress over it. And it's helped me tremendously. I hope you've enjoyed this entire blood pressure video, and I know it was a long one, and I appreciate you for getting this far. I hope you took some notes, and hopefully you can hand pick maybe 2 or 3 of the things to get started with and start to develop a plan for yourself of how to lower your own blood pressure so you can get off medications, or if it's too late for you, you can at least reduce the medications, get your body healthy, and live a normal, healthy, and happy life.